Welcome to Chattin Sht, the podcast that's technically about gut health, but who knows what pan the chat led up in.
I'm Alana.
And I'm Lisa.
We're here to bring a celeb mate to grill our gut health experts, and nothing is off limits.
From DJs to founders of the gut stuff, we've seen it all. Gut health is complicated and it's super personal, but that doesn't mean it has to be boring.
Gut health is serious shit. It's linked to everything from your mental health to your immune system and way beyond.
Everyone's banging on about gut health now, but don't worry, this is your one-stop shop for gut facts,
Real talk,
and enough laughs to make your belly work overtime.
Let's get into it.
So we talk a lot about health and fitness, but how confident are we all really at navigating the craziness of the wellness world? So Milly has just recently ran the London Marathon. Well done. Do you know why I was stuttering there? Is because it was the worst day of my life and I'm just getting flashbacks currently. But we couldn't think of anyone better than Nichola to pair her with. So Nichola's got a first class degree in sports and exercise science and a postgraduate diploma in nutrition and dietetics. And you've also got a master's in health science, and you got that in 2001. You're an academic author in the Journal of Human Nutrition and Dietetics, and you've just penned your own book, How Not to Eat Ultra Processed. So honestly, so many of the experts that we have on, I don't know what all the letters in front of their names mean. So basically, highly qualified. Milly's a lifestyle creator with literally hundreds of thousands of followers. And you're so wonderful and open and honest on your socials. I was in a hole of watching you yesterday and advocating for things amazingly like mental health. Your DMs must literally be bursting with people looking to you for advice. So now the shoe is on the other foot and you get to ask Nichola for advice today. And I'm presuming that you're pretty clued up about kind of health and wellness, but I'm interested to hear how you got on with the Activia gut tracker.
Yeah.
Because you sort of alluded that it might not have been what you thought it was.
I was actually quite surprised. I thought I was going to get a really high score. I don't know what a high score is though, but I got 64% overall.
I mean, it's not zero. It's not zero.
But I was expecting like 80%.
Okay.
So I got an Aura ring. So usually like I'm quite optimal. I'm in the high ranking.
How was it broken down?
So my diet was in 38%, which was shocking. Exercise was 100%.
You'd think so. A marathon runner, honeys.
Sleep was 100%.
Yeah.
And stress was 0. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, right.
Definitely not 0.
Does that mean?
I don't know.
Okay, so
because I'm definitely stressed.
You're definitely stressed.
So not sure. And that was it.
But so the diet thing, what do you consider as, I guess like we all have different lenses of healthy eating. And I'm sure Nicola's going to course correct us. But what do you consider, like how is your diet? What do you consider when you're having your diet? Protein, fibre, ultra processed, what do you consider when making choices?
So I'm a pescatarian, so I don't eat meat. I have lots of fish. I'm always eating lots of vegetables. The one thing I do avoid is like legumes because that upsets my stomach, and I'd love to like pick your brains about that. Also, I've recently discovered that, so I love like whole foods like kimchi, prebiotics, probiotics, love all of that stuff. But kimchi is now something that upsets my stomach, which is weird.
Okay.
I found a direct like correlation with that. I mean, there's probably other variables that come into play. What else? I love like yogurts and honey and lots of like my little powders in the mornings.
I don't know how you've only got 34% because it sounds like you're 38 or 38%.
I don't know what happened there.
We should probably touch upon the legumes thing. So I think fibre, and we always talk about it on this podcast, but it does get a bit of a bad rep because gut bugs can have a party, can't they, if people up their fibre?
Yeah, so I think the slogan is go low and slow. So if you're trying to increase your fibre, just gradually increase it. And lots of people do struggle with large amounts of beans, so just try small amounts. And it might not be all beans. I think the best place to start is a food and symptom diary. So just for a week or even 2 weeks, write down everything that you're eating, how you're going to the toilet, and the state of your like bloating. And hopefully over time, as you gradually increase your fibre, your gut bugs will then thrive and multiply, and they will be better able to deal with the fibre because they've had time to grow and flourish. So you can't go from like no fibre to loads of fibre and expect no symptoms. So go low and slow and gradually increase it. So just have like small amounts of maybe kidney beans in like a plant-based chili, and then gradually increase the amount and go from there. And even like hummus.
I love hummus. Love hummus.
So it's not all legumes.
Is it true if you wash them before, it helps?
Some people find that, and also like sprouting and soaking. But I think ultimately cooking helps to break things down. So that's why if you do struggle, maybe going for cooking it in a chili as opposed to having raw.
I did not know that.
Cold kidney beans on the salad. Yeah, so cooking helps to break things down.
So basically, you've got to train your gut bugs up for a fibre marathon.
100%.
You've got to train them up. Slowly, mile by mile.
Did you do the best thing I thought when we ran the marathon was the carb loading?
Oh, loved that.
What
All
was
the
your carb
pasta
load
that
of
one
choice?
can consume.
Pizza. All I was having was pizza and
Amazing.
flatbreads, bread, sourdough. I just love bread. Love it. But you know what? I found I was really struggling to find the balance between carb loading, but then also not panic eating.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of just eating anything that I could see just in the hopes that I was going to use it all up for energy.
Yeah.
But then are you capped?
Yeah, so your glycogen stores in your liver and your muscles obviously do have a limit, but then I think it's what you actually do during the marathon as well, because you're using up your glycogen stores as you're running. So how did you fuel yourself throughout?
Gels.
Yeah.
Oh, those gels. Yeah. And when they go warm, when you have to put them in warm.
And you're like mushing them in your mouth.
Yeah.
And by the 5th gel, I was over it.
Yeah.
I was over it.
Congeals in your, like,
Yeah.
Is that the best thing?
So I was asked this before, and when it comes to runners are generally quite healthy people. They, they eat well because you have to eat well to perform well. So when it comes to having these gels during marathons, as long as you're not doing a marathon, every single day, every single week, having those ultra processed, easy to absorb gels is absolutely fine. But yeah, so they are easy to digest. The problem with, as a dietitian, I'd say, have a banana. Having a banana an hour before is fine, but during a race,
in your bum bag,
it's too high in fibre, isn't it? So it's going to cause the blood flow to be diverted to your stomach, and it's going to go back to the muscles, and you're going to be feeling sluggish. So the gels are really quick, high GI, and a good source of energy. So yeah,
hadn't thought about that, having fibre when you run, that your gut bugs are, and they're digested to work more.
The blood isn't there in the stomach; they're in your muscles. So then the food will just sit there. So that's why you need high glycemic, rapidly digestible foods. Not high fibre.
I was like, I think it was like 2 and a bit hours in. I got a really bad stitch. Do you know what that could have been? Because I didn't eat for about 4 hours.
Dehydration.
Yeah, and it changes in electrolytes as well. So yeah, it can be multifactorial. I'm sure a doctor though would be able to tell us the actual mechanisms.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because I think you're so tuned into your body at that point, because, either tuned in or tuned out. That you want, because you just want, all you want is for that stitch to go away.
Yeah.
So, this is the thing that's stopping me. I think it's maybe breathing as well, because we got stitches as well. And I think we were talking about this earlier, where when you're doing your training, you're doing it on quiet roads, and then suddenly at the London Marathon, you're hit by this wall of sound all the time. And I actually found my breath
heart rate is through
because it's adrenaline. Like you've got so much adrenaline.
Yeah, my heart rate was nearly at 200 for about a good hour and a bit,
and it's the heat as well.
And the heat. But I was saying I don't remember the heat because I was so focused on my injury and my legs just being so painful that I didn't even think about the heat. Which was actually quite bad because obviously then you don't really think about your thirst, your hydration, and everything else. So yeah, marathons are not easy. It's crazy how it's kind of becoming a trend, and it is not easy at all.
Well, the reason that the length of time for the marathon was created was because that was the length that people were pushed to their limits at. Like that amount of miles was the one that, and it's like, okay, we're literally pushing our bodies to the edge.
But what's how is my gut now? Like after all that stress that I put on the body?
Yeah, so I think there's a big difference between acute stress and chronic stress. So research shows that when you are chronically stressed, and also when you're chronically stressed, you're probably not eating the best as well, and you might be neglecting things like sleep. So that isn't good for our gut microbiome. But little bits of acute stress is fine. And also, you then enter a state of recovery and nourishment, and you won't be running 10 to 20k today. So then your gut bugs will have time to replenish.
And are our gut bugs linked to exercise? So are they linked to exercise and how we move, obviously, aside from diet?
Yeah, so it's threefold. So firstly, people who exercise tend to have a better gut microbiome. So by better, I mean more diverse. So the more diverse your gut microbes, the better things like immune system and also stress. Secondly, when you are moving, you are literally helping your digestive system to keep moving. And that's why if you work in an office all day, that's not good for your gut. So you should be getting up and taking breaks. And thirdly, thanks to the gut-brain axis, you've got the feel-good hormones. So when you exercise, you feel good, and that in turn is good for your brain and your gut because they're constantly speaking to each other. I mean, also when you're feeling good, then you're probably better able to make more positive other lifestyle choices as well.
Another marathon, Milly?
Oh, not sure. Not sure. I was going to ask, does it depend on what sort of exercise? Because obviously weight training is very different to running. So does that have different signals?
Yeah, so I think ultimately it depends on the intensity. So our body does like to be worked out, but not at the extremes. When you exercise too much and maybe undernourished, that's when things can go a little bit awry. Things like hormones and runners especially can lose things like their periods. So I think it's working at that intensity where I often say you feel a little bit out of breath, but you can still hold a conversation. That shows that you are like working hard, but not too much. So I think a combination of the two, doing resistance exercise for your muscular and then running for your cardiovascular. But it doesn't have to be running. It could be even be fast walking because running isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
When you're not training for marathon, what's your go-to?
You know what? I was such a weight trainer kind of gal, but I'm just Pilates queen now.
Really?
I'm a Pilates
Reformer.
reformer. I love it. But I do want to get back into the weights again because I had such a rhythm with like my weight training and my glutes and my body. Like I loved it. But then like I've kind of found this new love for Pilates. I kind of want to just like merge the two again, and then with a little bit of running.
I think strength's good, like psychologically, because you can see the weights going up. Like I quite like those little incremental gains.
Yeah, I agree.
Reformer, sometimes I'm just like, I feel like I'm being.
What
like,
do you guys do?
Reformer.
Reformer.
And I've got a Peloton. Oh, I love my Peloton. But I need to get back. So we got our like loads of like, you can go get an MOT. And my muscle mass was only good. Hers was great. Shockingly bad. So now I'm obsessed with doing more strength stuff. But Peloton are good. They've got strength classes as well that are really good. But I've got these bloody weights. You know the weights that you've got to take. They've got like
the barbell?
They've got no. It's like you've got a. It's like all in one.
What they called? I had that lockdown.
There's like that's, I bought them in bloody lockdown, and now so it's like how it's like a 35 kilogram one. And you've got to change the weight, and and then I'm like, right, you're gonna 10 kilos. So I'm like, hold the collar. So I'm like pausing the thing, changing the thing. So it's just I don't enjoy it as much. So I'm going to treat myself to some new kettlebells. No, dumbbells. Kettlebells is the thing one. Like ones that I don't have to change. So and I walk a lot. But I honestly I haven't worked out yet this week, and I noticed such a big difference mentally.
I noticed such difference, to be fair. Like the last week the week before the marathon, I was completely like not moving or just walking. And I was itching to like do some Pilates or do some weight training, and obviously I just couldn't. And I noticed such a difference on my like mental energy as well as like motivation. Even with work, I was just not motivated.
Well, it's like night and day for me.
So I haven't been to the gym since like pre-kids or maybe like for a decade, but I do love to work out from home, either like a bar online class, or I've got like 6 kilo dumbbells or a 10 kilo weight. But also I think like generally being a mum, like pushing a pram up a hill and like lifting my 3-year-old and often 6-year-old. But that's why I like to be strong, because I know that literally I can pick up my 6-year-old really easily. Or, I don't ask for help. And that's what I talk a lot about with my patients. It's about moving the conversation like away from calories, away from weight, and more about how much can you lift and how do you feel and how motivated are you.
Honestly, I genuinely think my grip strength was crazy when I got it straight. And I think I've got a 1-year-old and a house with lots of stairs, and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, carrying the banister for dear life. And my son is like a chonk, right? But not even like not even like rotund. Is so muscly. Is like a rugby player just waiting. Honestly, like it needs 2 people to change his nappy.
My God.
It's unbelievable.
Wow.
So I think it's like a wrestler.
Wow. Is that like genetic?
Well, apparently I read something that there was a study that if you work out during pregnancy, your baby's more muscly. I mean, I'll need to find that study. It could be a lie.
I haven't seen that research, but I mean, genetics has, it's like, I think your weight is about 70% to do with your genetics, and then your body composition is going to be a big thing, and how easily you build muscle, that has got a lot to do with genetics.
And is your gut health like due to genetics as well?
Well, I'm sure these two can answer that much better. So it in part is, but it's heavily influenced by the environment. So things like your stress, what you eat, also like antibiotics and illness can have a major impact.
Okay, so we've got 100% the same DNA, but only 30 to 40% the same gut microbiome. So that's what got us on the journey which is mad.
That's amazing.
But I think the beauty of the gut microbiome, why we obviously love it so much, is it's so empowering because you can change it. You know, obviously with genetics you can switch them on and off and all the rest of it, but by and large you're pretty much stuck with what you've got. But the fact that you can change it and change it so quickly, I think is so
That's why I
exciting.
love like gut health, and like I'm just so fascinated
How
by
did you
it.
hear about gut health? Like, I'm always fascinated to find out how people hear about gut health and what your first point of contact was.
Well, I did psychology at uni, so there was like, we did a whole topic on like the psychology of appetite, and there was a bit of gut health in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but there was very small research, and I wanted to originally do my dissertation on gut health, but because there was such little research, I couldn't do that. At the time, I had like a whole 8-year-long eating disorder, and then I was going on a weight gain journey and everything. So my whole gut, I knew, was just so heavily affected. So after my big weight gain journey, gaining loads of weight and recovering, I've then like just really wanted to like hone in on my gut and try and get it as healthy as possible, because also I suffer from skin and acne, and I just know all that's really connected. So I'm always looking for new facts and new things that I can try, but there's so much out there that you just don't know what applies to you, and that's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah, I was going to say I really want to talk a lot about ultra processed foods, which we will do, because especially in the like sports nutrition space, there's a lot of madness there. But what can we arm ourselves with for the nutri-nonsense like lens? Because there's so much of like green powders, like magic bullets, so much online. Like how can you sort of sniff out the bullshit, basically?
Yeah, I get asked about this all the time. Every single day I'm sent a link, Nichola, what do you think to this?
Yeah.
And when I go on these websites, sometimes I'm blown away by the number of health claims. I actually can't work out how these claims are legal, because
They're probably not. That's it.
Yeah.
They are.
And I often say, if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is, if it starts talking about hormones. But I'm also of the ilk that if someone is doing the basics right, they've got a healthy, balanced diet, and then they've got the surplus cash and they want to maybe spend it on functional mushrooms, and it may confer a benefit and they feel good doing it, then try it. Just try it for 4 to 6 weeks. So I think when I first qualified as a dietitian, I was very quick to maybe shoot people down, like, oh no evidence, move on. But actually, a lack of evidence doesn't mean evidence against. And as we know, science is always evolving. So I am now 15 years on in my dietetic career, much more open-minded to things. So if people want to try things, it's not going to harm, then try it.
And as you say, the science comes out all like, because I think there was like before were always led to believe that collagen that you ingest couldn't help your skin, but now there's studies to suggest that it can, and that changes.
I mean, collagen's a big one. I turn 40 next year, so it is something.
I mean, whatever you're having, exactly. Give me some of that. What is it? Give us it.
So collagen is something that I've actually started to include. And I spoke to a scientist, it was last week, and she was commissioned by a brand to do a randomized control trial using collagen. But she is an independent scientist, and she found a positive effect. Just because studies are sponsored by brands, it doesn't mean that we should shut them down. Yes, we should be curious about it, who's actually conducted it. Let's find out more, but let's not be so quick to shut things down.
And it's the type of studies, isn't it? Because I think that's what the hierarchy of evidence, as soon as like layman's like us hear that, I'm like, oh, what do you mean? But there's different studies mean different things, doesn't there? So what's like the gold standard?
The gold standard, so when we're looking at all these ultra-processed foods, we're looking at like meta-analyses and systematic reviews where they basically bundle in high-quality control trials. So when I say a randomized control trial, that means that you've got 2 pretty much identical groups, and they're given a placebo and then the thing that they want to test. When you just give the person things that they want to test, you've got nothing to compare it to, because the placebo effect is real. And they did actually find benefit with this collagen. However, if someone is not eating enough protein, getting the 5 a day, getting 30 plant-based foods a week, healthy fats, I'd say start there before we add in that, the extras. It's food first, supplements to enhance.
And that's the thing, like, it's not sexy, that messaging, isn't it? Like, it's not cool and forward thinking. It's just not one line. Yeah. Have your fibre, have your protein.
And it's also so subjective. So people are like, well, what about, like, people just want answers, don't they, for them?
Yeah.
And that's why I think so many people are so quick to like jump to conclusions for things, because they just want the quick shortcuts. And really, that's just not the way in life, is it?
No.
You can't take a pill. And I think that's why I like the whole gut message, because you can't just take one single pill. You literally need to feed your gut microbes. So that's like having lots of different fiber, lots of different colour. And then, yes, you mentioned adding in kimchi, kefir, adding in fermented foods, which literally adds in those good bacteria. And then there's stress, things like not smoking, not too much alcohol. So you've got to do everything. You can't just literally take one fibre supplement and expect everything to be cured.
And is it true that like emulsifiers and preservatives can stifle the good bacteria? So if you are doing a lot of good work, but you're also eating a lot of ultra processed foods, like what is this sort of, and I know you have a really balanced view on this, which is great.
Yeah, so this is a great question. So the talk around ultra-processed foods are created in factories and they contain multiple different types of additives. Yes, emulsifiers, preservatives to keep it safe, also things like colorings, flavorings, and ultimately they drive overconsumption, so the overconsumption of calories. The problem is, though, that when Nova, who first coined this ultra-processed foods, set about doing their investigation, they never meant it to be ultra-processed foods equals bad and non-ultra-processed equals healthy. And actually lots of healthy, nutritious, high-fiber foods fall into that ultra-processed category. However, the conversation around emulsifiers, is nuanced and the evidence is evolving. Most of it is in rats. And the problem is that they feed rats so much emulsifier that we as human beings would not actually have, in a lifetime. And then they get problems. With some types of emulsifiers, they think actually it's quite neutral and in some cases even positive. But I'm not, haven't said that, to a client yet. However, there are some like red flag emulsifiers, which I do talk about in my book, that if you're having them a lot of the time, you may want to switch products. Ultimately, though, a healthy diet is what you are doing the majority of the time. And if you've got a high fiber diet that's rich in plants, you've got some fish in there, healthy fats, and you've got a small amount of these ultra processed foods that are high in fat, sugar, and salt, and also contain the emulsifiers, it's not a bad thing. The emulsifiers that I talk about, P80, carrageenan, and CMC.
What would they be in?
Yes, a good question. They are
Teach us.
Yeah, I'm right notes it.
They tend to be found in like your ice cream products and your heavily processed foods that you would not be having thinking that you're being healthy. It might be ice cream on Saturday night. I did though find one of those emulsifiers in my tinned coconut milk. So however, I only have tinned coconut milk once a week. If I see a brand that doesn't have that emulsifier in, I will buy it. What I have though swapped is bread. Now, bread is a healthier type of ultra-processed food. Even supermarket high-fiber breads, they are not linked with disease. However, I've decided that my kids are really young. I am feeding their gut bacteria now. I can afford to go for like the supermarket sourdough or Jason's sourdough. I can afford that, so I'm going to make that swap. And other things like I drink a lot less diet fizzy drinks now since researching my book. So they're the main shifts, but also just making sure that you're getting in that fibre to help balance out any potential negatives.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of it, isn't it? Is like, what can you do to kind of counteract it? Alana makes her own bread these days.
I do.
That's amazing.
I make a bread maker.
Lockdown as well.
Did you?
Oh,
Oh my!
I got really good at it.
Frisbees.
Oh no, I've
really
got a
good
bread maker. I'm a cheater.
Oh, nice.
I'm a cheater. I just shove it all in. I know. I can make sourdough in the bread maker, but if you've got to do it 24 hours before, and I've not got the time for it.
Although those hot cross punch you made at Easter were an absolute shocker. They were like boulders. They all went in the bin.
Oh, no.
That's the last time I bring anything to your house. That is the last time. You asked me to make them.
They were like rocks. Alana.
It's because most people eat bread every day and eat it quite often. So that's why I decided to do a swap. However, if my husband does the weekly food shop, I was spending too much money.
Is that how it was being done?
You ever do the food shop when you're hungry?
Yeah.
No.
When he brings back bread and if it's got emulsifiers in, like it's fine, because it tends to be a high fiber bread packed with seeds, and then we go down to our local Tesco and just get the bread that's got a shorter ingredients list. It tends to be the shorter ingredients list, the better, but don't rule out, just because you see more than 5 ingredients, don't rule it out. And just because your hummus has got one preservative in, or your oat milk has got an additive to help the calcium and the iodine be there, don't rule it out, because they are healthy and nutritious ultra-processed foods that do not contribute to disease risk. And that's what the new research is saying. You can't lump UPFs all together. And the definition is problematic in itself, and that's why the UK government haven't taken it on board, because they can see it's flawed. So I would like to see the definition ultra processed being like heavily processed in a factory, devoid of plant-based protein and fiber, low in nutrients, and also high in fat, sugar, salt, and contain like more than 2 additives, which yes, lots of foods fall into that category, but it's not foods that you would ever think, oh you know, I'm being really nutritious today.
Yeah, how are you? How? What's your stance on UPFs?
What's my stance on?
On like UPFs, ultra processed foods. Like, do you after hearing that, are you like,
so you know what? Well, I come from a background of like being in the fitness industry. So like we said, like there's so much talk around low calorie foods or sugar-free foods, shakes, yeah, everything. So for so long, I fell into that trap, and I was always having very, very low calorie stuff, not really realizing that I wasn't actually getting any nutrients in me. So after like so long of doing that, it's been so hard to break that habit. And I don't know what your thoughts are, but even having like loads of sweeteners in the past, my cravings for sugar or anything sweet are so high. I'm trying to just train them to not have, I'm not putting like sugar or sweetener in my coffee or something, but I still really struggle with that. But like, I don't know what the difference is between certain sweeteners as well. Like there's stevia that people say is like healthy, the better option, but then there's also other sweeteners that, I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, it's a great question. Sweeteners are safe, and actually when you look at the research, they are safe so that you could have I think it's like 14 cans of sweetened pop a day, times that by 100, and you'd still be under the safety guidance. However, there is conversations that some people find that having sweeteners then triggers cravings for other foods. And there is now questions around the gut microbiome, but researchers aren't quite sure like what that effect is. Ultimately, though, I suppose if you're cutting down on ultra-processed foods, then you're going to be cutting down on sweeteners. And I think sweeteners are something that I did cut down in my tea and coffee. Just know that it takes a while for your taste buds to adapt, like several weeks, several months even. But don't feel bad for adding a little bit of sweetness. Stevia, it is natural, but also there's this thing that people think that just because it's natural, it means it's healthy. And actually, you know, that's not a thing. If you are cutting down on like fizzy drinks, whether they be sugar sweetened or artificially sweetened, that's great. And then a little bit of stevia in your tea or coffee, you know, is absolutely fine.
It's hard, isn't it? Because I think a lot of the sports nutrition products are now, brands are trying to treat them like confectionery. So they're like birthday cake bars or whatever. And I think that's hard because people are having quite a lot of them, or only having those shakes and bars. And a lot, like, what should we be looking out for on those sort of grab and go, like protein shakes and bars?
I do love a protein bar. However, I wouldn't have it every single day. I would have it, you know, if I was walking from A to B, I'm hungry. I do think that a protein bar, or, you know, one of your health bars is better than having a chocolate bar. What should you be looking for? The ingredients list goes biggest to smallest. Looking for whole foods at the start of the ingredients list is better. And then you want kind of like, you know, your additives should be further on down. And then if you can buy a brand that doesn't have the additives in, well, great, you've gone and swapped from ultra processed to non-ultra processed. And maybe you'll be getting less of that sweet hit. But I talk about the 80-20 rule. If you are eating an 80% of the time whole foods balanced diet, 20% soul foods, and you can choose where you go. You know, like I have chocolate every single day. You know, some people might have like a little bit of alcohol in that 20%. So yeah,
it's the thing, isn't it? It's like we go and make some people like, oh god, I wouldn't have that on it because I can't pronounce the name in the back of the label. But then, I mean, I'll have a martini and I live in London, and I'll like, do you know what I mean? So you're like, well, pick your. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you've got to
choose your
battle. Yeah.
It's all, what are you doing the majority of the time? You know, so you try and get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, try and reduce stress, and, you know, be in nature, try and eat your whole foods, and, you know, move your body, and don't sweat the small stuff, because sweating the small stuff, getting too paranoid, is going to increase your stress. And also, you know, if you take out all ultra processed foods, which I do not think is possible and not necessary, then you're going to be left with a really bland diet. And also maybe, you know, too high in pulses for people, and then that's going to cause you further, you know, gut upset. And food is more than just how we feed ourselves physically. It's psychological, it's social, it's connection, it's cultural. So yeah, it's encompassing all these things.
You said that your sleep was 100%.
And I was amazed at that.
Yeah. I know. I was quite impressed. I think so. I have to get 7+ hours sleep a day.
Oh, what a luxury!
So I go to bed about 11-ish, wake up at about 7:30.
Okay.
Nice.
I did math.
Yeah, that's right.
enough.
Yeah, that's it.
What, do you have your phone in your bedroom? Because this is a new thing I might try.
I have my phone.
Yeah, so that. But I've just, my husband sent me something yesterday of like these 3 rules that we're going to try in the house. I'm like, he's not even at home at night, so he wouldn't know. He works every night. So I'm like, you won't bloody know if I'm on my phone or not. But you do no phone in the bedroom, no phone in the bathroom, like when you're on the toilet, and no phone when you're eating.
I love that.
Yeah, that's quite good.
Yeah.
The no phone in the bedroom's so hard.
So
though.
hard.
Especially, like, my job is, I mean, I'm sure you guys know as well, it's 24/7.
Yeah.
You've got to
And,
and
like,
comment on stuff
and it's quite hard because everyone's online at that time.
Yeah.
So you need to be online to respond
Also, when
to
you and
anything.
Luke send those, because we share an Instagram account, and when you and Luke send each other your stupid reels about stuff like that, I see them.
Good, educate yourself.
Oh,
You doing it as well.
On that, I wanted to sort of end on the sort of inbound queries that you guys get. Obviously, you probably get a lot of inbound questions, and you're probably like your Instagram account is probably a sole fantastic insight data mine for young women in the UK and their biggest concerns, worries, whatever about health and wellness. What are the most common things that you get dropped into your inbox?
Gosh, that's such a hard question.
I know you're talking quite a lot about relationships.
Yeah, the most common thing about in my DMs are either talking about skincare, LED, talking
NAD.
about LED, yeah.
LED.
LED. I thought you said NAD, like, the
NAD is that
aging.
new one people are
I
injecting
have
and
heard
injecting.
about that as well.
That's all been all over our Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
LED.
I've got an
LED mask.
The
Have you
bad.
got an LED mask?
Which I do love. I love. What other questions? Yeah, lots about dating, lots about guys, lots about just balancing exercise with food, or like just there's so much pressure on girls in this day and age that people just always have this, desire to follow the next trend, or like see what's good to buy, or I don't know what's something that I'm doing that they can try, and I'm like, I just want people to not get lost in that.
Well, that's what I think is so hard about your generation, because our generation, we had like Bebo and MySpace.
Yeah.
You
that
gave
was very
someone
much
some love a day.
It was
Remember that?
very much an
You can have my love
output
a day.
funnel and not so much an input funnel.
Yeah.
But we just copied what all our friends were doing.
Yeah.
So they were doing the cabbage soup diet, so we all did the cabbage soup diet, and we just copied each other. And we never really had, apart from like magazines, which were screaming crazy, but we didn't have constant information to do it. But I think your generation have constant new information, and that's really hard to navigate. And brands being able to sell directly to you all the time.
And it's really interesting because whenever I do a brand deal, like, I'm so picky with who I work with, and I'll always work with someone who I've either tried their products before, I purchased before, or whatever. And a lot of the time, my followers always ask, like, yeah, but do you actually like this? Because there's obviously, with influencers in the world of influencers, so there's so much overconsumption and lots of sell. And I mean, speaking from myself, like, I am just so strict with that. And I guess, like, my followers, it says it all. If they're asking me, like, do I really need this? It just shows, like, there's a lot of other influencers and brands who just want, lots of people to just buy their products for the sake of buying it.
And that's quite a weight of responsibility. People looking to you for what to spend their hard-earned cash on.
Yeah. But that's why I'm so, I don't know, I'll always really, like, use the product before, like, even with my electrolyte brand Salt, like, I was trying so many different electrolytes before, and I didn't even like any of them, so I didn't want to sell any other electrolytes, so I thought, I'm just gonna make my own. And that's exactly why I did that. So there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure, but
You do sound really responsible, and I think that's really nice coming from an influencer who, yes, you've got to abide by the ASA guidance, but you don't have any other governing bodies. It's like when you see something from a doctor, a registered dietitian or nutritionist, we are held by our governing bodies, and people can actually report, healthcare professionals, but they can report influencers who don't declare. So I think it's really responsible that you're not only being transparent about your ads, but you're actually being genuine about them, because, like, not all celebs are. So it's really nice to hear.
Some people put like a tiny ad, and you're like, I can't see it. Just be upfront about it. It's like obvious you've got a product in your hand, but
exactly.
it's like hashtag ad. That's
Not built to be.
tiny.
Don't blame you.
I think it'd be good to end on if you've seen like a myth or something in your DMs, like now you've got Nichola sitting here. This is what I love about having experts on the show, because Alana and I now have like a WhatsApp encyclopedia of people like
I love that.
Is there anything that you've looked at and thought, that's got to be nonsense? Or anything you've been asked?
There's one thing that comes to mind, but I don't know if I can mention it.
Go for it.
It's Ozempic.
Okay, yeah.
But
Good one to ask.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's, because obviously, I mean, I don't know nothing about Ozempic, but there are certain people who I know are on Ozempic, and I just don't have anything to do with it. And there are people who are in my DMs like asking me about it, and that's just don't like that.
So I'm a weight loss dietitian by nature, so dealing with they're called GLP-1s, and also I work in bariatric surgery. Things like Ozempic, Wegovy, they've actually been around for over a decade. So I've been working with my patients with type 2 diabetes. And when things started like growing out of control on social media, or these celebs almost like abusing it, you know, people who are not clinically obese taking these drugs, I was a little bit confused. I was like, why is there anything negative being said about these drugs? But, you know, they're a miracle for some people. They offer people a lifeline. And the problem is like the abuse and people getting them off market, having them without any nutritional support. So as a dietitian, they are an amazing tool for the right person with the right medical support under the supervision of a doctor and a nutritionist. Because the problem is that a lot of the time you can get them, without a doctor looking at your bloods, are you at risk of gallbladder problems, pancreatitis, and no nutrition advice. So all Ozempic does is it slows gastric emptying, which can cause problems in itself, but it makes you feel full, dampens down food noise. It doesn't alter what you're actually eating. So you can be healthy or unhealthy, quote unquote, at any size. So yeah, there are major problems, but when used correctly, it's an amazing medical drug.
There you go. We're going to give you that clip, and anytime anyone DMs you now, just go, copy, paste. Right, we always end on something that everyone's learned. Alana, a new thing you've learned.
Well, that you didn't like my hot cross buns. Gutted.
Milly?
Oh, I would say, there's so much I've learned actually. I would say, you know, the whole stevia sweetener thing, I was always quite confused about. So it's good to know that, you know, it's not a completely horrible, awful thing. Yeah. It's nice to have it in moderation. But yeah, I'd say that.
Mine's is those 3 emulsifiers, and I can't wait to take your book home and get my old school highlighter out and just highlight those 3.
It's in the appendix. I love that.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Did this gut you excited? Join our 100 Days to Hack Your Gut Health programme. The link is in the bio.
Come and find us over on Instagram too, @TheGutStuff. Pretty simple.
Thank you again to our guests and our sponsor Activia. Hit subscribe. Your gut will thank you for it.